Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. We'd like to thank Cheryl Atwell. She gave us a 5-star rating and review on Amazon for our book, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know.
Yay.
There are two main types of smoke detector, ionization and photoelectric. Ionization is more sensitive to small particles, so this would be like a fast-burning fire, paper, or grease. Inside the detector, you have this radioactive material that ionizes the air, and as these smoke particles enter, it changes the current.
Really?
And it sets off the alarm. Yeah, wild. In photoelectric, you have a light and a photocell, and it detects large particles of smoke. So this is more for a smoldering fire. If you have, let's say, a cigarette, you drop it onto furniture, and it's starting to smolder before it bursts into flames. You've got these larger particles. For maximum protection, the NFPA recommends that you use both types of smoke alarm in your home. That way you're fully protected.
Can you get a smoke detector that has both of these
So
in
you
it?
can get alarms that have both, which is nice. So they have both types of sensor inside of it. So it's wild about having both types of detectors. If you have an ionization detector, it's going to activate 30 to 90 seconds faster to a fast-burning flame than photoelectric. But what's wild is it can take 15 minutes longer for an ionization detector to detect a smoldering fire, which is huge. Yeah, 15 minutes quicker. A photoelectric will let you know if there's a smoldering fire about to take off.
Interesting.
So pretty wild. So most of home fatalities are at night when people are asleep, and they usually die from smoke inhalation. So this is why it's very important that you have both types. I would say that a photoelectric is important in every bedroom, and then you would put ionization in the hallways or within 10 feet of each bedroom. Or, like you say, have those dual type sensors.
So how do you know what kind of smoke detector you have, if you have one in your house already?
You can take your detector down, and on the back it's going to tell you what type it is. What's wild is 90% of the U.S. homes have ionization smoke alarms.
That could be a problem, huh?
Absolutely. So there was a quote from the Boston deputy fire chief, and he said the percentage of people dying with a working smoke detector, but it worked too late, is about 40% from their studies.
Wow.
So your alarm worked, but if it takes, almost 15 minutes for you to be alerted that there's a smoldering fire, many of these people are dying from smoke inhalation. In most states, interconnected hardwired smoke alarms are required in new construction.
What does that mean?
So you've got all your alarms are connected. So if one goes off, they all go off.
So like if you have one in the basement?
Yes.
You'll hear it upstairs?
All of them will go off. So it's much faster to respond to a fire. And they all have to have a battery backup in case there's a power outage.
What does it mean to be hardwired?
So in the U.S., you've got your 120 volts that comes from your service panel, and you're connected directly to that. So that's what's operating your system. And then there's an additional wire that goes to the next smoke alarm. So in most cases, you're going to have a black wire, a white wire, and a red wire on this harness connected to the smoke detector. And that red wire is going to be the wire that goes on to the next smoke detector. And what's nice now is with the new technology, wireless smoke alarms are making it easier so that you can have interconnected smoke alarms. So if you don't want to run wiring from your service panel and do all that work or have an electrician come into it, now you can have your alarms interconnected from a wireless signal.
Interesting.
Which is really nice. Many states are now requiring non-removable 10-year, non-replaceable batteries. And
So the alarm's supposed to last 10 years and then you throw it out.
Right, exactly. So what's great about that is your battery is going to last 10 years.
Right.
And once it starts chirping to let you know that it's at the end of its life, you just replace the whole smoke alarm.
Okay, which is nice in theory.
Right.
But I see a couple problems with this. So in my condo in the hallway, probably at least twice a year, the smoke alarm starts chirping in the hallway.
Right, so that's a non-10-year...
Right, but one of the other residents just goes and removes the battery.
Well, that's what's great about this. So these are non-removable. So
right,
you
but okay,
can't remove...
let's talk about it like 2 o'clock in the morning.
So they just throw the whole thing out. Take it to the dumpster.
So at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be on a weekend, and it's just going to chirp for the whole weekend.
And you don't have a battery for this, like in your drawer, so you're prepared?
But if it's a non-removable battery is what I'm talking about.
Right, but this is only going to start chirping once every 10 years. And
but don't you think, so everybody's going to have a schedule? Like,
yes, of course, you have a chart. That's one of the routines that every homeowner should have.
Okay, which nobody's going to do. Okay, and then my sister just went through this a couple months ago. Was her smoke alarm in her apartment started chirping,
right?
And so it was on a 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Or what is she going to call her maintenance guy to come running over?
You have a backup battery.
But if it's a non-removable battery, what is she supposed to do?
Toss it out. You get your hammer out, and you stop the noise.
Yeah. So there's going to be some.
No, this is
problems.
The best.
Right, but I mean,
even though Cindy hates it, you want a 10-year battery, non-removable.
Okay, and how do you
have a
know
backup. Have an extra one in your drawer.
An extra smoke detector in your drawer.
Absolutely.
Ridiculous. Okay, but 10 years from what? From the time it was made? 10 years from the time you install it?
10 years from the date of manufacture, which is interesting. So you need to look on the back of your smoke alarm, too, and there's going to be a date of when it was manufactured. Most of the codes in all states are saying you should replace this 10 years after the date of manufacture.
But if it's sitting on the store shelf for 5 years...
Right.
You're like, knock this out. 10 years from now, I'm going to set an alarm in my phone.
Right, that's not a bad thing to do. So if you open your smoke alarm and you look at the back of it, it's going to have a date of manufacture. And if it's already 8 years old, let's say they haven't sold it, take it back to the store where you got it. Keep your receipt whenever you buy anything. And you should get a new one because these are designed to last 10 years because they're sensing the air so much, and depending on what
every day, every minute of every day.
Exactly. So after 10 years, statistically, they're not going to be accurate enough to save you potentially from a fire.
And
so
you
should
start chirping at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday.
Right. So you've got two types. So one type is a traditional battery. You should be checking and replacing your battery once a year. So have a routine for that. And then I would always like to mark on the side of a smoke alarm the date. But now it's really easy. If you take it off, look at the date on the back. But you should have a little checklist or a chart somewhere.
That whole thing that you just said was a bunch of nonsense.
So besides those routines, you should be vacuuming your smoke detector once a month.
What, take it down and vacuum it?
You can. Or just use, the nozzle on your vacuum and a soft brush and vacuum around all the openings so that dust doesn't build up in there and cause the smoke alarm not to work properly. And then you should test your smoke alarms at least once a month. Some manufacturers say once a week, but at least once a month. The more often you do it, the better.
So if you have vaulted ceilings, this becomes quite a workout, right?
Yeah, get one of the new remote control ones. Or a really long stick.
Yeah, and a vacuum that climbs the walls for you. Are they called smoke alarms or smoke detectors?
Both. Depends on what part of the country you're from.
So how many smoke alarms should you have in your home?
So the new recommendation by the National Fire Protection Association says that you should have at least one smoke alarm on every level of the home. Now they're recommending one alarm in every bedroom and then near the bedrooms in every hallway. If your hallway is longer than 40 feet, you should have one at the beginning and one at the end of the hallway, and then one alarm at the bottom of a flight of stairs and one at the top of the flight of stairs. And then check with your local fire department. There's different codes in different areas.
Because holy Toledo, that's a lot of
a lot of smoke alarms. But amazing how as these codes have evolved over the years. In 1977, there was an average of 723,000 fires a year, with about 5,800 deaths. In 1987, it dropped to 536,000 fires, with 4,500 deaths. And then in 1997, where a lot of these new codes came in, where they are requiring more smoke alarms, it dropped to 395,000 fires with around 3,000 deaths a year. And that's been pretty consistent now because of these new codes. And, so the population has grown every year, but the amount of deaths from fires, just because of all these codes where, people are putting more smoke alarms in their homes.
Interesting.
You want to keep these smoke alarms about 10 feet away from stoves, ovens, furnaces, fireplace, wood stoves. You want to keep them about 3 feet away from anything that's moving air. So vents, windows, doors, ceiling fans, because it can disrupt the flow of smoke.
Interesting.
And then you never want to put it in an area with high humidity. It can, depending on the sensor, it can damage it. So like in your bathroom, you wouldn't want it. Or, like if you have a laundry room that's very humid. And you never want to paint your smoke detectors because you can block the air movement.
Just vacuum them.
Once a month. For flat ceilings, you want to keep it about 18 inches away from the corners. For walls, if you're putting it on your wall, you want it within 12 inches of the ceiling, but not in the top 4 inches. So if you're putting it on the wall, you want it between 4 inches down and no further than 12 inches down from the ceiling. And then for pitch ceilings, you want it within 3 feet of the top of the ceiling, but again, not in that top 4 inches. It's kind of a dead zone where smoke doesn't move, and you need that smoke to kind of move through the sensor.
Interesting.
There's also some additional features you can get on smoke alarms. For hearing impaired, they have strobe lights. They have safety lights that give illumination. So if you have a smoky hallway, it almost works like a illuminated path light. You have voice alarms. Some people respond better to voices than alarms.
Can you record your own voice?
If you think that would be effective. And then some of the top-rated smoke alarms are Kidde, First Alert.
You're not going to spell that?
Kidde, K-I-D-D-E, First Alert, and BRK. And First Alert now owns BRK. And these are the top 2 smoke alarms you're going to find in most hardware stores. And they, in the U.S., they own about 3/4 of the smoke alarm business. So they are top rated, and this is probably what you're going to see.
Let's talk about carbon monoxide.
So the number 1 cause of poisoning deaths in the U.S. is carbon monoxide.
What is it?
It's generated from combustion, and usually incomplete combustion is where you're going to get this odorless, colorless gas, primarily from your stove, your furnace, but you can also get it if you run your car in your garage or you grill in your garage. Carbon monoxide can get in your home. So anything, wood, gas, coal, propane, oil, anything that you're burning can produce this, and the carbon monoxide will bind with hemoglobin in the red blood cells, and it actually starves your body of oxygen.
Wow.
So what's interesting is if you have a persistent problem in your house, let's say a small crack in your heat exchanger in your furnace, why it's important to get that checked every year, but low levels of carbon monoxide can give you symptoms of the flu or a cold, but as it builds up in your body over time, it can either turn lethal or it can cause permanent brain and lung damage.
Really?
What's interesting about the carbon monoxide detectors is that the alarm goes off when it senses a certain level of carbon monoxide. So when we're cooking, or if we have a gas water heater, a furnace, we're always producing a little bit of carbon monoxide, but not enough to hurt us. So these alarms are designed to sense a buildup over time. If you have a digital carbon monoxide alarm at 70 parts per million, the alarm will sound between 60 and 240 minutes. So it knows that, there can be a buildup for a short period, but then that should diminish. But if it keeps building, it'll go off. If you have a larger concentration of carbon monoxide, so at 150 parts per million, it's going to go off in 10 to 50 minutes. And then when it reaches kind of a critical level, at 400 parts per million, it's going to sound an alarm within 4 to 15 minutes. So it's all about the concentrations with carbon monoxide alarms rather than with smoke. The minute it senses any smoke, it goes off.
Well, sometimes 15 minutes later.
Right, depending on the alarm.
Where should you put a carbon monoxide detector?
So the International Association of Fire Chiefs recommend one on every level of the house and within 10 feet of the bedrooms. You can put your carbon monoxide in all the same locations as smoke detectors, along with putting it down into an outlet. Carbon monoxide is slightly lighter than air, but what happens is it diffuses evenly throughout a room. So they have some of these digital ones that you can just plug into an outlet, which is convenient. And then homes with attached garages, you want to make sure that you put a detector in any room above that garage, in case someone were to accidentally leave the car running.
Right.
And then you want to keep this 15 feet away from a furnace, stove, fireplace, so anything that's burning fuel. And then keep it away from direct sunlight. You want to keep it 3 feet from windows, doors, ceiling fans, from vents, similar to a smoke alarm. Mm-hmm. And then you don't want to put these in high humidity areas either.
So are there combination CO and smoke alarms?
Yeah, which are very convenient, especially for smaller places like condos, townhouses.
Well, otherwise, too, your whole house is your whole ceiling is just going to be covered in alarms, right?
Yes, and you can't paint them. If your carbon monoxide alarm ever goes off, fire departments recommend that you get everybody outside of the house immediately and call the fire department, and they're going to come and check the carbon monoxide level in the house. Mm-hmm. And because it can be so damaging to your brain and your body, you definitely want to get out of the house as quickly as possible. Vacuum your detectors once a month, and then make sure that you're changing the batteries once a year. If they're a traditional battery, you can also now get 10-year batteries, Cindy.
Wow, that's fantastic,
for your
JC.
carbon monoxide. And with a carbon monoxide detector, you want to change this once every 7 years, where a smoke alarm is once every 10 years.
Tricky.
So put the date on the outside of the alarm so you can see it, or make sure you check it and put it on a schedule. And then the top-rated carbon monoxide, again, is Kidde First Alert. There's a company called OneLink, and their wireless talking smoke and carbon monoxide alarm was rated one of the highest. Mm-hmm. And Protech, that's Protech. So since we're talking about fires, one of the things you can add to a home is a home sprinkler system. And a lot of builders now are adding this as a feature in new homes. And what's nice is it's going to put out a fire very quickly. FEMA did a report. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency said that a fire can engulf a room in less than 3 minutes.
Wow.
So if you've got a sprinkler in a room, I mean, you're going to have immediate response to that fire. Whereas, how long is it going to take to have a fire department get to your house? And they say that homes with these sprinkler systems, you're getting about 10 times less water damage.
That's nice.
In your home. So it's just something else to think about if you're if you're building. So they've got all the sprinklers set throughout your house, and each sprinkler has this glass cylinder with a glycerin-based chemical inside of it, and so it has to reach about 155 degrees for that glass to shatter, and then that sprinkler goes off. And none of the other sprinklers are activated.
Oh, that's nice.
So only the one there, and so and it's not activated by smoke. So if you burn toast, you're not going to flood your room.
Well, that's good.
One other thing you might want to think about for your home is an escape ladder. 6% of the houses in the U.S. have an escape ladder, and there's 2 types, either portable or permanent. And what you're looking for when you're purchasing an escape ladder are the standoffs. So you want the rungs to be off of the house far enough so that you can get your foot into this safely.
Right. And so what do you mean a permanent thing? So it's like hanging off the side of your house?
So it's going to be attached inside. So the kit is set up with bolts that go right into the studs, like under your window inside the house. And then if there's a fire, you open up the window and you throw this out the window.
So the ladder's just always hanging there?
Always, yes, sitting underneath the window, so ready for an emergency.
So it's like a decor.
Exactly. This you can paint. So no problem. You're looking for UL approved, and you want to make sure when you're shopping for this, let's say we're getting the portable ones, you want to make sure you measure the width and the depth of the windowsill so that it fits. And then make sure it's long enough, because whether it's 2-story or 3-story, different builders have different heights. So you want to make sure that you measure the height. And then check for one-time use. There's some manufacturers where it's designed to be opened once, and that's it. So you want something that's not marked.
You can't do a practice run?
Right, yeah, absolutely. And that's smart, because you would want to do a practice run. So you're looking for something that doesn't say, you want something that's going to say reusable. Because
this could be a disaster, too. It's like one-time use, you throw it out the window, and it's not long enough. And you're trying to do a practice run. I mean, there's just disaster waiting to happen.
Bad scenarios.
Yes.
2 of the top-rated ladders were Exit Fire Escape, and that's spelled the letter X-IT, Fire Escape. And this can support up to 1,000 pounds, and it's reusable. And then First Alert has a fire escape ladder that's rated very high.
So with portable ones, where do you put that? You just always keep it by the window?
Close to the window, ready to go.
So
under your bed.
So should you have one in like every bedroom?
Every bedroom should have one, absolutely. So have one in every bedroom, and I would say practice with it. And, especially if you have a second story, many fires are started in the kitchen, and if you have no escape route downstairs, this just is a safe way to get out of the house quickly.
Do you have anything else to add?
I would say if you just moved into a house, to check all the smoke alarms and CO detectors, see the date of manufacture. You want to change your smoke alarms once every 10 years, your carbon monoxide once every 7. I would put photoelectric in the bedrooms, and it's going to be the safest. And then make sure that you're using carbon monoxide 1 on every level of the house.
And vacuum. Apparently,
every month.
Your ceiling. Vacuum a lot. Let's wrap this up.
You can check out our book, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com. You can visit Cindy on Twitter at FixItCohost.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.